let's get into the details of the meta server. Right, this is a common feature available with the 7.5, and what it allows us to do now is to allow us to do after the fact motion detection. So if you did not have any motion detection set up on a camera, you can go back to your recordings and then do motion detection. Once you have the recordings done, you don't have to do it for the whole period. We'll go through the details of all this. You can choose, pick and choose the time ranges on when you want to do this. So it's a two-step process. So your first step is to generate the metadata, and the second step is to use that metadata to actually do the motion search. So 7.5, we were able to do thumbnail search. This was completely based on time, where we dug through a recorded video by splitting that in time segments and watching for specific things, video to browse down to the relevant video we want to look at. Now, this allows us to do that in a much better fashion. You still have the ability to choose time ranges, and there's a number of new parameters which we can choose. And in the time range, you are able to look for motion, so that allows you to get to the points of interest very quickly, and allows you to do motion detection after the fact. So the question is, why does after the fact motion detection help? Why not just do it before the fact? You do that, it's an easier option. After the fact is a lot more resource intensive. The thing is, this is the start of the infrastructure setup. So, we are starting with this algorithm, and as we go forward, we'll be able to do much more advanced analytics using this infrastructure. For example, if you are trying to find a green shirt in a video, you're able to search based on that. But for today, out of the box, we have motion detection, which you can do after the fact. There's a number of GUI features which allow you to search through motion much better, because we do it after the fact, and we'll look at that as we go through the demo. Right. So I'll get to the details through slides, but before I get in, I just want to give you a quick flavor of what this allows us to do. And then while I go through the slides, I'll again go back to the demo and do a final detailed demo at the end of it. So hopefully the slides make more sense using that approach. Right? So quickly, if I go to my SASD screen, we have a new field now in SASD. It's called forensic analysis, and by choosing motion analysis and motion video search, I open up a window which pops up, and I can do my meta search in this screen over here. It's a very big screen. We'll go through the details of it as we go through the slides, but just want to give you a quick flavor. I'm sure you are comfortable with this interface here, right? So what this is showing me is showing me that metadata has already been generated for that amount of duration. I had done this earlier. So metadata was already generated, and I wanted motion search on a period. I would just select the period like that. Selected a period from 12:10 to 12:30. Let's go to 12:15 to 12:30. And I've selected a range where I have a blue bar, which means the metadata is available there, right? So then I click next. It will pop a new window which shows the output of no, I'm sorry. So this is popping up a new window which allows me to do choose many more options, right? So I can choose the data on which I want to perform motion detection by just clicking on those squares. So I want to see what happened as far as motion is concerned, if any cars pass by the road cross through that stretch, right? So I select the time range. I can again select it here, so I can decrease the range. If I want to directly edit it there, I can do that. And while I selected the range and a few parameters, which will go into the details later, and the motion area of interest, I can click next, and it does after the fact motion detection when I do this, right? So see the bars being populated up here. The blue bar indicates that motion was actually detected at these time ranges, and the time split is shown below. So at the beginning there was a car, so that's a motion window which you can see over there. And if I go down, there's another at this time range. So a much better way to do thumbnail search and just get to the point of where exactly it moved. So I can go details of this by clicking on that. I can play video for that particular clip there. or click on it, it just pops it up into a bigger window. So, I see that motion happened around that time, a car passed through. So it's a very easy way to get all the interesting video out there very, very quickly, right? So here to previous window. Another way to play it back is just to play the motion summary. So this will play the clips which have motion. So there's a couple of clips which you see in the bars up here, indicated by blue, and that you can do search using this feature, right? So that gave you a quick flavor and makes the slides more relevant as we go through them in detail while we configure to get to this point. Right, close it down, go back to the slides. What Metadata does, it takes in a recorded video from VSM and generate data. It allows you to generate the metadata. And using that metadata, you're able to perform motion search through the SASD client. Right? And it runs on a dedicated standalone server, typically in a centralized deployment. One metadata server can only be registered for each VSOM. So only one metadata server per VSOM. This runs on a Red Hat operating system 6.4 version, which is a 64-bit OS. So if you had any previous servers from the PSBU, those will be 32-bit. You will have to procure a new server or deploy this on a new VM with the 64-bit operating system. Right? And if you have the new VM deployed, you cannot have that co-resident with VSOM or VSMS. Right? The way you can have VSOM and VSMS co-resident today, we cannot have any other services co-resident with the metadata server. It has to be running standalone. Right? Any media server can be analyzed. So if you have one VSOM with 10 media servers, you will have one metadata server, but you could choose recordings to process from any of those media servers. The algorithm which we have now, which is supported out of the box, is motion detection or luminance changes, as we call it. A lot more can be done. So this is the current infrastructure. As we go forward, as we release our APIs to partners, and we already have a couple of efforts underway, we will be able to get a lot more interesting metadata into the server and do many more interesting things. And we'll talk about that later as well. When the metadata is generated by the metadata server, it is again copied back to media server and stored on the media server along with the recording itself. So if you know how our VSM recordings look in a directory structure, within that you'll have dates and there'll be 5-minute SMD files, as we call them, which have the actual video and the video metadata inside them. Now this is an additional track, additional SMD files. Just like you have video and audio, 2 tracks, you'll have an additional metadata track within the recording for the time you generate the metadata. So there is no additional licensing required. So the only overhead, if you want to use this feature, is that you need to get a new server. So you need to either deploy it on a standalone server, either a VM or on a server by itself. Okay. So about setting this server. So as we have been reading, it has to be a standalone server first of all. Once we set up the server, it's similar to setting up the media server through the VSMC wizard. As we go through the wizard, we set it up and choose metadata server as the option the service to enable. To do that, you can then go to VSOM and add the metadata server in there. When the server is added, you can go to your templates, and we have a new tab now for analytics settings, which can be used to set these parameters. So let's see how we do that by going to our, let's see, let's the VSMC console of the metadata server. So once you go through the VSMC wizard, you choose your network settings, your date and time parameters, your language settings, and all that good stuff. It'll force you to restart services. Once you restart services, and hopefully you've chosen metadata server as a service you want to run on this. This is what the screen should look like. The meta service is active. You cannot have media server also running on it, so that has to be empty. You have operations manager either, so it is running by itself. It's only going to provide metadata service. Now we have a standalone metadata server set up. we need to go to VSOM. And the way we add a media server, we click on System Settings, we click Servers, we go to location which we're interested in, and you see that I already have a metadata server installed. Ignore orange for now. This is a new color with 7.5. We talk about this on Friday. It's morning, so nothing to worry about really. If I did not have a metadata server added here, I would just click on Add, input the name or the IP address of the metadata server, the credentials of it, and as a service type, I would choose metadata server here, point location, and click Add. That will just add the metadata server. It looks like any other server, like your VSMS server. It's got all hardware information, NTP, and hostname, all that good information, right? So we have completed adding the metadata server into VSOM. So we need to go into our templates and start doing our analytic settings in order to be able to generate metadata. You click on cameras, go to templates, template. I bought one, so I'll show that. Go to streaming, recording, and events. Inside, you'll see a new tab called Analytic Settings. So I click Analytic Settings. In the registered analytics metadata types, you'll see luminance, right? So that's the only one which we support out of the box today. It's all enabled. If it's not, I'm just quickly deleting that from there. All I would do is click on the plus button, and that selects that. There's a parameter here called retention time. So what this is saying is you can choose a retention time which is less than the retention time of the recording itself. So if you archive recording for a week, you could choose the retention time for the metadata to be a full week, or you could choose it to be depending on your business requirements on when you want to run the motion metadata. And there's a bit of storage associated with it, and we'll go through the details of that as well. So once the template is set up, we would be able to perform metadata search on any of the cameras associated with this template. I've already got the camera associated with that, with which I did the quick demo before. So we will go through a detailed demo with that a little bit later after we go through some more slides. So we talked about this, and we've seen how to set up the metadata server first by itself, then add it to VSOM, then go to templates and make sure the settings are right. Is the term used for motion detection. Essentially, it's change in pixelation, and that is what you use for motion detection. It's a basic algorithm as far as analytics goes. And the goal is, as we go forward, we'll be able to do many more interesting things using this infrastructure. So let's take a quick look. A demo server available internally in Cisco that we can leverage for training or demos? How about remote labs or demo in dCloud? Any plans? So I'll let Anil answer this. He's been working on getting the dCloud setup going. So.
Okay. So currently, most guys know there's VSM 7-demo. That's the internal demo that's accessible from anywhere. You just use your normal CC login details on there, or your CEC login details actually. Currently still a VSM 7.2 system. We'll be upgrading it. We'll be putting together a plan after ISC West, so at the back end of next week, to actually get that upgraded to 7.5. The only challenge with that is we've got a whole bunch of dependencies. So all the CBCs in the USA actually run off that system as well. So a lot of stuff to coordinate. As for remote labs, I am currently working on dCloud. I did some pre-staging yesterday, so it's currently in the dev environment. It should be moved over to the main environment tomorrow, and then we'll actually start having limited partners and stuff like that coming in and actually work on the system and giving us ongoing feedback. So my target date for full release is middle April for internalize, and then by the end of April for all the partners and everyone else as well. Okay. So other analytics do we plan to support? Suman will cover that very shortly. And then can we have vsm7-demo.co.com, the lab address. Login is CEC login. Please break anything though.
You probably won't have rights to break anything, but
They
try
do,
not
actually.
to. They do? Okay.
The only can't break are the servers. Everything else you can break.
Okay, cool. So, uh, so forward with the metadata slides. I will address the analytics we plan to support in a couple of slides ahead. The only way to view and generate metadata is through the SASD client. This is not available through the VSOM web client. So you have to use the SASD client, and there's a new tab to be able to do forensic analysis. And I'll again go through that a bit slowly so you get a better understanding of how this is all done. Again, this is a pane we have seen. Hopefully, we are starting to feel comfortable with it. Using our SASD interface, we select the time range. And if this whole bar is green, what that is telling me is that the whole video recording is available. But if I see here at the end, there's a bit of a gap in the green range. That means the recording is not available at that duration. So for whatever reason, a recording stopped at that duration. We generate metadata if the recording is available. And if metadata is available, you'll see a blue bar generated. And you see the gray bar behind because this is time range which was shown to generate the metadata. So the range which is shown by this gray bar is the range on which we are trying to generate the metadata. As the metadata starts getting generated, you'll see that bar turn blue. Once you have the blue bar generated, you can choose time ranges within that blue bar and actually perform motion analysis in that range. Okay, a few tools which I'll talk more about some ops while we do the detailed demo. A few concerns. Data server can process only 5 archive streams at a time, so 5 recordings at a time. Right. This is a very intensive process, very resource intensive. All the processing, generation of the metadata, as well as running the motion analysis, all of it happens in the uncompressed domain. So these are expensive algorithms, and we limit that to 5 recordings at a time, which can be processed. More than 5 requests are coming in from SASD. That will queue it. But one caveat here, you can have only 1 request per camera at a time. So you can have 5 different cameras which can be processed, and these could be on different media servers, but per camera you can have only 1 request. So if you're generating it for an hour and then suddenly decide you want to do it for the second hour, you'll have to wait till the first hour is done before you can do the second hour. This is just the way the underlying analytics server works, and we'll probably look to address this. The reason for this is if you cancel the first request camera, it will automatically cancel all the other requests, and it's bad, right? So now we are restricting it to 1 request per camera at a time, and you can get 5 of them going parallel. And then for this, you can have only 1 metadata server per VSOM installation. We would possibly look at expanding this as we go forward, add more analytics algorithms, but right now it's 1. Of the metadata itself, we briefly touched upon it, right? So the metadata server generates this metadata and sends it back to the recording server, and it's not like coordinate information or something like that. It is actually downsampled video, and it's in the uncompressed domain. So it takes up a decent amount of storage. It's a lot of bandwidth. So because you can only do 5 per server, you're only using up about 500 kilobits per second, which is not a whole lot of load as far as bandwidth is concerned. But you should be careful about the storage design when it comes to this. Numbers here, 5-minute video segment with 1080p resolution, 30 frames a second, H264, about 30 megabits. And if you think about it, if you really want to do it for 30 days, and if you want to do it over multiple cameras, I mean, it's only a bit of 5 per 5 panel, but you can keep doing it after you finish the 5, right? So you could want to do it on all your cameras. You should account for the additional storage on this. Sample numbers, and we will get better at providing storage calculators which calculate this, but just be mindful of the fact today If this is the primary reason for procuring a system, then we have to make sure that this takes into account, the design takes this into account. Only one metadata server per VSOM. And you see metadata server all over the place. This was called as VMGS before. It was all VMGS server. So editing that, replacing, kept the server there. So please ignore that typo. We talked about this. It runs on Red Hat 6.4, which is a 64-bit server, which is the first time we're coming out of with the 7.5 release. So if you had any previous servers which you're thinking about upgrading and making them metadata servers, it won't work. It might work with, but it won't be supported. So you should get a new 64-bit server to get this going. You can have this deployed as a VM as long as it is standalone. Right? We talked about the 5 parallel streams which can be analyzed, and all of these have to be primary streams for now. Might support secondary going forward, but for now it only takes in primary streams. Right? And VSOM does not have the UI to generate the metadata and run the analysis. You have to use SASD for it. The log locations on the metadata server itself, I mean, it's the same standard directory, USR, BW, HTTPD logs. On the server, you'll go look at vmgs.log. On the media server, you'd look at analytics_md.log, motion detection, essentially. Right? So types of analysis. So while going through the setup, we chose luminance changes, which is the only one which is available as the registered metadata tracks today. That essentially is change in pixels across the video and keeping that metadata, right? So this is what is allowing us to do after the fact motion detection. As we forward, third parties can integrate their analytics tools with this metadata server, and the effort is underway with a couple of partners. One partner is much further ahead. This is Intuvision. Darius, this is for you. And this is in the context of AGT. We are working with Intuvision to get the metadata from the analytics server. So this includes your bounding boxes or track when something detected in the video, and that is sent across as the metadata. This can be viewed in the ActiveX client as well. So this is on a separate build for AGT now. This is not available with 7.5. The goal is to merge that along with the 7.6 release, but we are still working on how to sense that third metadata, especially Intuvision, because we've had Solutions Plus going with them as well on the camera app. So we'll see how that works out. But that's one app we've already been working on, and we've just started engaging a couple more analytics partners to take a look at this. Right. So I go back and do a demo of this. Go a bit slow.
Assuming Newman put a question in the chat as opposed to the Q&A about how this for the data server needs to be set up. I'm not sure if that got answered.
Yeah, no. So what we found out is we are not reserving any space for the metadata storage today. So which is why we need to be careful while designing our solution. It is there, so it gets copied onto the server, but this is not being accounted for while we reserve our storage, which is what we do when we get recordings going on the server, right? So depending on how much metadata you think you will do, we can just do the back calculations and leave a 10% buffer or whatever makes sense in this case. Now, think of online, Jimmy, on how we can do this better. It depends on a lot of factors as well. So just one more variable into our storage design, and we'll try to incorporate that into our calculators and GSS as well as we go forward. Okay, so I have SASD opened up. There's a new tab which has come out with 7.5 forensic analysis. I select motion analysis, select motion video search. I pop the window, and it's asking me to drop a camera on which I want to do the analysis. So I'm just going to take it from SASD. You see a busy screen in front of you, right? The top you have the camera name listed, the stream on which we are processing. This has got to be a primary stream, otherwise this wouldn't have worked. The top scroll bar is the recording full range. So this has a 1-day archive associated with it. There is associated with the template on which we enable the analytic settings, right? So need to have that to get to this point. And by moving the orange bars on top, I can choose a smaller range in the seek bar below, right? So if I'm interested in a range from noon to 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, I would kind of move that. So your detail range start and stop time moving below. So here is around close to noon, and the end time is close to 4 o'clock, about 4 hours duration. So I've already created a bunch of metadata here. So let's go and see how we create more metadata. I've already got it from about 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So let's go and generate it for 1:10 to 1:30. So I have the time range. Then just type it in here if I know exactly where I want to go to. There's AM, PM options. So there's no data here. So when I click next, it's going to tell that there is at the end of the previous metadata. So what it's saying is there is a metadata gap for selected duration. Do you want to continue to analyze or generate metadata? I could have selected analyze. It would only analyze the very beginning of the blue bar there. But I generate metadata. So I do generation for that time range as well. And keep in mind, this is a very expensive process. It takes time to create this. So I have a 20-minute clip here. It would take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to get it done, depending on the rate, resolution, and all those factors in the back end. You see a gray bar now populated here. As this processing goes ahead, you will start seeing that turn to blue as it goes forward. The track this is to go to SASD client. In forensic analysis, motion analysis, there's a metadata job management. In here, you'll be able to see the progress of the job we just submitted as well. This will come to grow to 100, and that's one way to target it as well. There is a question. So we take this. The type of camera and or the resolution of the stream influence in any way the metadata generation. Yes and no. The type of camera does not affect it. You choose to do it on any camera which is supported by VSM as long as it's got a recording. So this is working on the recording. So by that time, everything is normalized there, right? The resolution is a factor. I mean, you can generate it, but depending on the resolution, you'll be generating less or more of the metadata, right? So that answers those questions. So let's go back. While this is generating the metadata, let's go and deeper look at what to do once the metadata generated. So you can see here the blue bar is snaking in, and once it is done, you'll see that the whole thing turns blue for that range. Let me go back to where I have generated already. So 12:10 to 12:30, let's say. Ask me anymore if I want to generate metadata. It knows it's got metadata generated in that range, so it'll already take me to this screen here. Another very busy screen, similar seek bars. So this is again going for the range which I've selected. The range with this, I can go in here and select my detail range as well. So in the range, I've selected this duration from 12:10. 12:30 yesterday afternoon outside our offices here. So let's see how many people went out for lunch at that time. I can the difference of doing before the fact motion detection and after the fact motion detection, right? So I can choose areas like this. With the big fact, it's just squares, and then you could take some windows out, but this allows me to be even more flexible by choosing all these squares. So I can do that. There's sensitivity parameters here. I could do high sensitivity if I was interested in that. If there was very little motion and I wanted motion to be detected, I could do that. The high one shown in red, so I could do that in that road. There's a new threshold. Threshold, it goes from 1 to 100. When it is 1, What it tells me is even if there is motion in one of these squares which I've selected, I will get motion as generated. But if I'm not interested in a lot of false positives, what I could do is I could select 100, so and use all my squares properly, then only if motion occurs in all of those squares will the motion even be generated. So a lot of flexibility there on eliminating false positives with motion. Things you can do on the GUI, you can do paint, select all the squares on the image, erase all, and all. I can just do that quickly if I want to choose a bigger range. So I'll just run it on this smaller range. The bigger the range, the more time it takes, right? So maybe I'll just take a few off. Next. So new, it takes a bit of time to process. It splits it up into smaller durations as we do for thumbnail search, right? So except the results are shown based on motion, which is really nice, right? So, and another good thing is all the motion events detected are shown on the bar here in blue on top. Right? So it's very easy to go to that and see what's been. The center shown as well. It's showing that in this range there is one motion event, here one. When there's no motion, we don't really worry about that. If I choose to just play the motion events from here, I play motion summary, or I could still play the whole video from here. Right? I can go into the details of it, and if I click on it, if this was something very interesting to me, I could create an MP4 clip and have that done here. Click. I can see a bigger window, and if I click on it, you'll see that you can do all the stuff you can do through VSOM and SASD from this interface. I can, if I wanted to go to live quickly, I just do, and that takes me off to the live stream. So a quick, easy way to get to the interesting video in your recordings, right? So a quick metadata job progress. It's gone up to 50%, 60% now. So as it finishes, we'll get an alert here saying it's done for the 100%. Let's see questions on this. Okay. Going back to my slides here. One last slide on this, just to make sure. So let's just talk about where we are going. We saw how to do motion search today using the current infrastructure. You can use time ranges which are smaller than the recording data, just generate motion data for what you are interested in. This is processed, indexed, and stored within the media server. Once that information is there, you can actually go and do motion search with that. So a simple application, very simple analytics application. We got analytics engine going in the backend now. So we could do a lot of interesting things as we go forward ourselves and along with partners. Partners, part of the metadata API is released with 7.5, so they are able to send metadata back into us. So they take the recorded video, process it, and send the metadata back to us. And then we can send it out to our client. This should be available with 7.6, but in the future APIs will be available for the outbound interface as well, so that different partners who are willing to put together interesting applications can do that. There's nothing stopping us from getting metadata from multiple sources. So you can see possibilities there. This release is to keep basic infrastructure going and provide some basic motion detection and features after the fact as well.